Since the announcement of the coronavirus cases, many employers have become increasingly concerned about the possible spread and effect on their employees. Basic hygiene steps have been undertaken at various entry points at workplaces by installing sanitisers and suspending biometric entry and replacing it with access cards. Meanwhile, hand sanitizers have been flown off the shelves and masks are becoming impossible to find at some outlets. So let's talk about employee relations and health awareness at this heightened stage of coronavirus prevention in South Africa. Devan Moonsamy is CEO of ICHAF Institute, or rather the ICHAF Training Institute, and he is us in the studio. Thank you very much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk about workplace perceptions regarding the coronavirus, whether it has happened internally, whether people are coming from home, and the inevitable could happen.
You see, perceptions have shifted significantly since it arrived in South Africa. So when it was an international challenge, people weren't as heightened or as aware as they are now. So the conversation has started, communication in different boardrooms and within organizations, especially regional ones. We're seeing more communication flowing in terms of prevention, in terms of safety measures, even stopping travel within regions within South Africa. So this is becoming now more prevalent.
Right. So now when it comes to the practice of hygiene matters, how conscientized are people in as far as things that people would normally ignore on a normal day, like washing your hands regularly, not touching your face, which is very, very uncommon that anybody would scratch their heads when they are thinking, and they will just, poke their noses and so forth.
I suppose. Well, as you know, we in the learning and development space, so one of our programs is a hygiene and cleaning program, learnership. And what we've seen lately in the last week, more and more organizations have been asking us to come through and talk about general hygiene practices within the organization. And as we approach the season where flu is becoming more prevalent, I think if there has to be a silver lining, this communication now on the verge of going into the winter season where people might get a bit fluish and ill, it's a very relevant conversation. So everybody's talking about it. People are talking about these preventative measures, but I'm thinking that it should have happened anyway, whether the coronavirus is in the country or not. This type of issuing of posters and different statements within businesses should have happened. So yes, a clear indication from senior management that we've now got to be washing hands, we can't be touching our faces, people are buying hand sanitizers, and general restroom hygiene would be to wash your hands afterwards and before touching or engaging with somebody else.
Okay, now let's talk about people who don't feel well and they just force themselves to go to work, because if they don't show up, perhaps they could communicate the matter with the immediate supervisors, and there would be implications if they didn't go to work. But, they carry themselves to work anyway.
Sure. Well, at the moment, if you're going to enter into a taxi and cough, everybody's going to look at you. People are not going to want to sit next to you. Even in call center environments, people are not borrowing pens anymore with fear that your bacteria may be on that particular, and rightfully so. The department, the World Health Organization, has released a statement saying we should be sanitizing, we should be washing our hands, we should be standing a meter away from people, and this information is readily available online. So yes, there's merit in what they are saying. And within organizations, if you are feeling fluish, if you are feeling the cold, the best thing to do is to work remotely, or the best thing to do is to inform your manager first so that they are fully aware that this is now the condition, that this is what you're experiencing. It could be the common cold, which is more than likely it will be, but you might save everybody else from feeling a level of discomfort around you.
So when you talk about open plans where people share computers, the keyboards, the mouse, the telephone handset, and the desks. When people work shifts, they come in and go. What about that kind of situation?
Look, good practice as far as this hygiene is concerned is for your laptop, for your cell phone, to be wiped every now and again. We should be doing this anyway. Even airplane seats, there was recently an article that was published about the level of germs and the contamination in an airplane, as also cell phones. In fact, some bathrooms were even cleaner. So if South Africans can start looking, especially within corporate South Africa, at best practice in terms of hygiene, cleaning surfaces, it becomes an intrinsic part of habit, and then we start following a sense of direction as we go through. So cleaning these surfaces, being very conscious and very aware in terms of what we are touching and how we're exposing ourselves to bacteria and germs. It should be second nature.
Right. So cultural diversity at workplaces in as far as office jokes are concerned, some of them have become so normalized and what do you think about offensive coronavirus jokes?
Yeah, Colin, I'm glad you mentioned it because it's become seriously heightened, and I'm experiencing it in corridors. People are talking about it. I've been to many organizations during the past week for different reasons, and people are generally, it's almost been labeled now. It looks like, and I've even heard, there isn't any stat I'm referring to, but I've heard that some Chinese restaurants in the area have even suffered as a result of it. This doesn't know any gender, it doesn't know any race. It's a virus, it spreads. It's not an Italian thing, it's not a Chinese thing, it's not a South African thing, it's a global thing and has the potential to spread. So making fun of it, we've got to be very sensitive because we don't know the heritage and the background of most South Africans. We, as you know, and I'm passionate about diversity and inclusion, I've even written about it, so we as a melting pot of so many different cultures, we all meet here. So if we're going to start making these, we've got to be sensitive is what I'm saying. Be sensitive to the person next to you. It's not that region or that country. It's a global thing, and together we could, fight this by taking precaution and being proactive.
All right. Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We have Devan Moonsamy, who is the CEO of the ICHAF Training Institute. Let's take a break.